Hello, welcome back to my Pathfinder beginner's tutorial. Today we're going to go over the classes. Last episode we went over races, today we're going to go over classes. So theoretically, the classes are based on levels, so there's different tracks to figure out how fast the DM's going to give you the levels. So I'm just going to go through the basics. So at first level you get a feat. That's your total class levels at first level, and every 2 levels after you get an extra feat. Other classes are going to give you bonus feats, but those are what you get for your level. In every 4 levels, you get a buff +1 to any of your ability scores you pick. So that basically depends on your improvements. So let's go through the classes. We're going to go through the concepts of making a class, and we're going to multi-class this guy. And then we're going to go across the concept of a favorite class. A favorite class I mentioned last time with Half-Elf. So when you take a favorite class, you just pick a class that you want, and every time you take a level in it, you get either an extra hit point or an additional skill rank. There are, in other books, you will find that there are other options you can take based on your race and your class, but we're just going to go through that from the base books. So let's start with, there are 12 classes to go through. I think there are 12. Oh, 11 classes. Sorry, I got confused. There's 12 in 5th edition D&D. There are only 11 here. So I'm just going to go through them and just explain to you what the basic class are. I'm not going through everything basics, but I'm just going to go through what the overall thing. So we're going to start with the Barbarian. The Barbarian is basically like Conan or the Norse Berserker. So theoretically, they have the highest hit die, so their hit die is based on the 12-sided dice. They have 4 ranks per level and have a lot of natural skills. They're proficient with simple and martial weapons, light armor, and medium armor, and all shields except towers. The primary focus of the Barbarian is the ability to rage, which is basically just fly into a frenzy. When they're doing this, they get a bonus to the strength and constitution, but I think they're unable to do quite a bit of other stuff. So theoretically, it's kind of like going into a full berserk rage. Another thing, the rage increases as they gain levels. They also get damage reduction, which basically just takes, whenever they get hit, they take less damage. So theoretically, they are basically about taking and receiving blows. Next, we're going to go with a bard. That's your musicians. Their hit points are based on the 8-sided dice, so quite a bit less. They have 6 plus their intelligence, strengths, and skills, and they have a very large list of skills. The primary one are the perform skills, because that's where your bardic music is going to base on. So bards get spells based on their charisma, but they're spontaneous casters, which means they know a certain number of spells, but can cast them without preparing them. So theoretically, you just pick the spells you want for the character. Bards are proficient with simple weapons, long swords, rapiers, saps, short swords, short bows, and whips, and light armor and shields. And they can cast while wearing those armors without arcane spell failure. So theoretically, that's probably one of the things you're going to look for if you're an arcane caster, is the ability to not take the arcane spell failure, because spells can fail when you're wearing armor. A bard gets bardic knowledge and performances. Bardic knowledge just allows him to use all knowledge skills untrained, but get a bonus on them based on your level. Bardic performance basically applies a bunch of effects to the party and their enemies. So theoretically, it's like bonuses to hit and damage or something. Damage, weapon. They get bonuses to attack and weapon damage and gain bonuses based on the thing. However, most bard music is considered the mind affecting tag, so undead or constructs will not be able to be affected by a bard. So theoretically, you might want to be careful about things, but they get a bunch of stuff like suggestions with their musics and stuff and things like that. So they're definitely a handy character. They're just not a character that's going to be going by themselves. Cleric. This is kind of more of your priest. So Cleric gets his hit dice based on the D8 like the Bard. The 8-sided dice like the Bard. They get a good list. They get 2 plus their intelligence skills, but they get a good amount of knowledge skills plus some interpersonal stuff like diplomacy. They're proficient with simple weapons, light and medium armor, and shields, with the exception of tower shields. And you're also proficient with a favorite weapon of your deity. Theoretically, most of the stuff with the Cleric is going to be based on around your deity, which is basically what god or based on your pantheon of gods. So theoretically, you get an aura based on your alignment, which is the alignment that you pick here. So theoretically, you'll be pinged as good, evil, lawful, or chaos by detect spells. And you can't cast spells of the opposing, so a good cleric cannot cast an evil spell, for example. They cast spells based on their wisdom, and they get channeling, which is basically an area of effect healing power. The number of times and the difficulty to avoid it are both based on the cleric's charisma. And you must have a holy symbol to use the ability, and for quite a bit of your spells you'll need your holy symbol. Otherwise known as a divine focus, but we'll get into that with spells. And all clerics, so theoretically, when you channel energy, you can pick to heal or harm with it. An evil cleric harms, a good cleric heals. And you can always throw your spells away to heal or harm a person with that spell. So that's an handy, so you don't want to, if you're going to be a healing cleric, you don't have to prepare Cure Light Wounds. And you get Celestial, Abyssal, and Infernal as bonus languages when you pick the languages. So if you're cleric, you won't have to pick those. And a cleric also has to pick 2 domains based on their deities. Like, for example, I'm just going to go through the Pathfinder deities right here. So we're going to go with the neutral good goddess of beauty, art, love, and music. So the domains you can pick for her are air, charm, good, luck, or protection. You get 2 of those. And you're automatically proficient with the cleave because that's their favorite weapon. So theoretically, a favorite weapon is just more of a what weapon a deity would like. Like, if you're a cleric of Thor, you'd have proficiency with a warhammer, and you have more destruction or thunder types domains. And a cleric gets an additional spell from their domain, as well as the normal spells, so you get to harness your own deity's power. That's basically what a favorite weapon is kind of like. And deities can go, like a different campaign, you might use a brand new cleric list, so check your DM. A druid. A druid is very similar to a cleric, but they're more of a cleric of Gaia, the earth, or more Celtic, or more natural. They're more of a cleric of the natural order. They're D8 hit die. They must be a cleric must be within 1 step of their deity's alignment. A druid has the same requirement, but the druid would have a neutral alignment, which would mean neutral good, lawful neutral, chaotic neutral, or neutral evil. To be a druid, they have a D8 hit die, 4 plus their intelligence modifier, and most of their skills are based on being in nature. They have spells, basically. They get a spontaneous casting of being able to summon animals or elementals. They have the same requirement on the alignment spells. They get a secret language at first level, which is a very handy thing. It's only for druids, so if you teach it to someone else, you lose your power. You get a bond with nature, which is either a pet or a cleric domain. You're able to influence animals, walk through natural environments without leaving footprints, and eventually you get the ability to turn into animals, which is more kind of like a mid-level thing. And another thing is you're basically forced to wear only I forgot to go through weapon and armor. You're proficient with clubs, daggers, darts, quarterstaffs, scimitars, scythe, sickles, short spears, slings, and a spear. They're also proficient with natural attacks. And you're proficient with light and medium armor, but you're prohibited from wearing metal. However, there is a spell called Ironwood that basically makes wood function as if it was steel, and you are available. You are proficient with shields, but must use them only if they're made of wood. So theoretically, you're bound to natural things. However, you should be able to find special materials that come from hide. Specifically, dragon hide you can wear, because it's hide and strong as steel. So it's basically more of a if you want breastplate, you have to make it out of iron. You have to cast ironwood on a wooden breastplate. So there's ways around it. It's basically part of your divine contract. And there's lists of animals you can take. I'll just go through it just in case you're curious. You got ape, a badger or wolverine, a bear, a bird which is eagle, hawk, or owl, a boar, camel, cat, a big cat which is lion, tiger, small cat which is leopard or cheetah, crocodile, alligator, dinosaur you're given Deinonychus or velociraptor, a dog, horse, pony, shark, a constrictor snake, a viper snake, and a wolf. Those are your beginning lists of what you can take, which is pretty good, and your animal companion will increase hit die. The fighter, this is basically your master of combat, the real soldier. Like Barbarians just rage, the fighter is someone who actually has trained. So they have a D10 hit die, which means their hit points are based on 10-sided dice. They have 2 plus their intelligence modifier. They have a decent list of skills, but not very many. They are proficient with, most of their stuff comes from the thing. They're proficient with all simple and martial weapons, all armor, and all shields, including the tower shield. They get a bonus feat at first level and every level after, which is the major bonus. So theoretically, a fighter's main purpose is the number of feats they take. They eventually get bonuses against fear, and they can their armor becomes easier to wear. And they get better at specific weapons. So they take a group of weapons and they can become better. Like they're better at axes. The monk. This is more. So the next class is the monk, which is basically more of a martial arts movies. If you watch those, that's very where this comes from. The monk has to have a lawful alignment, which basically means getting up and doing things every day. They're based on the 8-sided dice. They have 4 plus their intelligence modifier skills. Most of the skills are kind of physical, but they have a few knowledge skills, eclectic knowledge skills, plus perform. Basically, they have very mystical stuff. Like they have knowledge arcana, knowledge religion, knowledge history. They have stuff like intimidation, stuff like that. They're proficient with only clubs, crossbows, light and heavy, daggers, a hand axe, javelin, kama, the nunchaku, the quarterstaff, the sai, the short spear, short sword, shuriken, sarim, sling, and the spear. You're not proficient with any armor or shields. If you are wearing armor, using a shield, or carrying a medium or heavy load, you lose a lot of the bonuses. But to make up for not having armor, monks get bonuses to their armor and their combat maneuver defense equal to their wisdom bonus. Basically, to offset that, they can also make 2 attacks at first level with their bare hands or any special monk weapon, which is pretty much what I went through. Their punches basically go up to the point of being, I think, like a 12th level monk's punch is about the same strength as a great sword, and they start the strength of a short sword, which is pretty good for someone using just their plain fists. They also get monks go through a lot of stuff. They can stun lock things, so basically they can just smack someone's things to stun them for a round, which is very handy. But I'm not going through all the monk stuff. They can move very fast, but the thing is, there's quite a bit of stuff. Every level you get something as monk, actually get more, like 2 or 3 things. So, and one thing they're really good at is combat maneuvers, because they get bonuses to that, and even though they don't have a good base attack bonus, they're considered to have a good base attack bonus. It's kind of like a special ability. Monks have more special abilities that you've got to pay attention to. That's the main thing. So, the Paladin. This one is even more restricted alignment than Thing, because you have to be lawful good. You get 2 plus your intelligence modifier skills, and you get a lot of diplomacy and things. This is like the Holy Knight kind of character, which is definitely comes in handy, but let's face it, lawful good is often not played because of people played it stupidly. So theoretically what they get an aura of good, just like in the Cleric. They can detect evil at will. Some DNs have different rules about that, but I'm pretty sure that if you have an aura, you'll detect that, because that's an aura ability. They can smite evil, I think, like once a day, but it gets better later on, which basically means they're make it easier to hit and get hit more damage. I think you get like your... Oh yeah, you add your charisma to the attack roll and the paladin level to damage. If the target is a fiend or outsider with the evil subtype, an evil dragon, or undead, the bonus is for damage. So basically the damage is doubled. They add their charisma to their saving throws. They can heal themselves with swift actions. They're get a lot of immunities. And when they heal themselves or others with their hands, they could remove penalties. And they eventually get spells and channeling, and they get a divine bond, which is either a holy weapon or spiritually imbued weapon, or a horse that they can use. So that's basically what a paladin is. I'm going to skip most of the special stuff because it's kind of like going really deep. The ranger is basically has a 10-sided hit 10-sided dice hit points. So basically their hit points are based on 10-sided dice, which is roughly for a warrior class. They have 6 skill points and a good list of skills, mainly dealing with outdoor stuff. The ranger's main bonus is they take a favorite enemy. So if you're a dwarf and you want to maximize that hatred, you can go ranger and then pick the subtypes and get even more bonuses to weapon attack and damage rolls against them. You get bonuses on tracking down enemies, and you get your combat style, which is either archery or 2-weapon fighting. So you can either be very good at shooting or very good at hacking and slashing people with 2 weapons. Oh, I'm sorry about this. And you'll eventually get favorite terrain, which is basically you're very good in one area that you can go through in one area. And you get more favorite enemies and bigger bonuses to them later on, to your favorite enemies and your favorite terrain. The rogue. The rogue is kind of like, the ranger is more of a hunter, whether it be intelligent or unintelligent creatures. So theoretically, you can have a ranger that just hates undead or hates blink. A rogue. The rogue is kind of a big thing because they're based on skills. Like rogues can be thieves, spies, basically anything. The rogues hit dice based on the D8, the 8-sided dice. They have 8 skill ranks per level, and practically every skill is available to them. Or almost every skill is a craft skill for them. They deal extra damage when the target is unaware or flat-footed, basically denied their dexterity. They're able to find traps themselves, and they get a bunch of little tricks, and they eventually get evasion, which basically allows them to dodge out of the way of fireballs. Or massive amounts of bullets, kind of stuff. And they're even harder to get denied their AC. So they're they're harder to get flat-footed than other classes. So theoretically, this is kind of more your dirty fighter. Or dirty... It's basically... this is more making the character, but they're definitely skill-focused. They're skill over brawn. Your Sorcerer. This is your first of the normal arcane spellcasters. They use a 6-sided dice to determine their hit points, so they're fairly weak. They're probably the weakest of the classes, but their spells make up for it. They have 2 plus their intelligence modifier for skill ranks. They have very few skills, but they have some very useful ones, mainly based in the magical arts. So theoretically, but they include bluff and stuff and things like that. They're not proficient with any armor, and they take full arcane spell failure if they wear armor. So theoretically, they're basically made for not wearing armor. And they draw spells from the wizard. They draw spells based on charisma. One of the major things you want to pick when you pick a sorcerer is you have to pick your bloodline. This is basically where your power is sprung from. And basically a bloodline can be that from a taint in your blood from an outsider or other force. A bloodline, great ancestor was not inhuman. Well, inhumanoid. Let's put it that way. Or, theoretically, you just got blessed or cursed. All sorcerers do not require any material component for spells unless they cost money. So, unless the spell specifically says, and they cast spontaneously, which means they know the spells that they cast. So, you have a limited number of spells you know. So, that's the major thing. I'll just go through the list of them. You have Aberrant, which is basically an abomination, or alien-like creatures. Abyssal, which is a demon. Arcane, which is just pure magic. It's basically just pure magic goes through your veins. Celestial, which means you either have the blood or power of heaven in your body. Destined, which is more of a taint, which is more of a fate gave you the power. Dragonic, this can be dragonic ancestor and things like that. When you pick it, you have to pick the dragon that comes from. Elemental, this means you have the power of elemental, fire, water, earth, or air. Yeah, that's right. And you have to pick the one you get. Fae, this is more of a fairies. Infernal, that's devils. And undead, which is basically the taint of undeath, goes through your body. So theoretically, you have to pick one of those when you pick a sorcerer, and that's your bloodline. And basically, you get a list of abilities based on the thing. So that's pretty much the main choice. And the final one is your wizard. This is more of your studied spellcaster, like Gandalf, the Harry Potter wizards, that kind of stuff. So when you pick a wizard, they have the same hit die as a sorcerer does. They have 2 plus their intelligence modifier. They get all the knowledge skills plus linguistics and appraise. So theoretically, they're more about knowing things, which makes sense because they are the studied spellcaster. They're proficient with way less weapons: club, dagger, heavy crossbow, light crossbow, and quarterstaff. They do not gain any armor or shield proficiency, and like a sorcerer, their spells are more likely to fail if they wear armor. They get, based on intelligence-based spells, they get Dragonic as one of their languages. So you can take Dragonic as a starter language for if you're a wizard, no matter what your class is. No, you can pick Dragonic as a starting language. You can take an Arcane Bond, which is basically either a familiar or an item. And you have to pick your Arcane School. This is kind of like a Sorcerer Bloodline, but it works a little differently. An Arcane School, you get, and you're able to scribe your own scrolls at first level. So basically, a wizard has to keep all their spells in a spell book and keep them and add to it later on. But we're gonna go through the schools right now. So theoretically, in Arcane School, it depends on what school you specialize in. So you get one additional spell for that school, plus the school's abilities. However, you have to take 2 spells that cost 2 spell slots to prepare. 2 schools. So I'm going to go through them. The first school is Abjuration. This is basically the art of self-defense, art of magical defense. So theoretically, this is dispelling magic, protecting the users, and stuff like that. So at first level, you get like resistance to energy types. Resistance to energy types. It goes up, and you can every time you prepare a spell, you can pick what energy it is. So basically, if you're going against a massive heat, you're gonna have a fire resistance, like that. And you also get Protected Magic Circle on you that you can grant bonus to your allies' armor. Just so you know, it's counted as deflection, so if a character has Shield of Faith on them, the Cleric spell feels Shield of Faith on them, it's not going to count. The Shield of Faith is going to overcome your aura ward. So theoretically, that's going to be careful about using it. Conjuration, this is the spell that summon things to here. So that could be elementals, angels, demons, or anything else. So the first one you get is they last longer. This is your passive. And you can throw acid as the starting level wizard for a little bit of damage. So that's like something you can do without your spells. Divination, this is like seeing into the future or identifying items or identifying lores. They automatically can act in surprise rounds, but they're still considered flat-footed, and you get bonus to your initiative equal to half your wizard level. Initiative is where you're where you are in combat. And you can also gain insight bonus to your friends, which is handy. Enchantment. This is controlling or manipulating the minds of your targets. Elves have a bonus to this, so theoretically they're harder to do this to. It also contains a lot of other stuff in it too, but that's basically the main things. You get bonuses on your on social skill checks, and able to daze somebody for what touches. The problem is you have to touch them as a wizard, which is a kind of a penalty. Evocation. This is more your damage spells, so you get bonuses on the damage. It says it only applies once to a spell, so you can only, if you're shooting multiple rays, only one ray gets the bonus. You can't split it. And you can throw force missiles as your things. So theoretically, even if you don't have any spells, you can still shoot effectively a magic missile. It's the same bonus at level 1, so. The illusion. This is basically what it wields images, figments, and phantasms, almost like the idea of hologram, but the magical base of it, or mirages. So basically, at first level, they extend. The illusions are extended, and you can blind any foe with a range of 30 feet as range touch, and they're blind. If they succeed, they're blinded by 1 round. If they have more hit die than your wizard level, they're dazed for 1 round instead. So you might want to be careful about using against the thing, but it's a good way to deal damage. Like illusions are stuff like invisibility or making yourself appear somewhere else. Very handy. Necromancy, this is more of rising the undead or death spells. So theoretically, this is going to be kind of a more thing. Your first one is you retrieve the command undead or turn undead as a bonus feat. But you're considered to be able to have channeling of 3 plus your intelligence modifier, but only with the selected feats. So basically what those feats are is they modify the cleric's channel to be able to affect the undead. So theoretically you do have power of the undead, which is very handy. So theoretically, if you want to go for a more benevolent necromancer, you can have turn undead, which causes them to run away. Still very good even for an evil one. The command undead basically puts them into awe. I'll have to look up the rules for that, but... And their thing is they can make a grave touch, which living creature becomes shaken. And if you touch a shaken creature, they become frightened for 1 round. So theoretically, you can just hold it up. And the last school is transmutation. This is basically... remember when I said that your abilities can go up based on spells? Pretty much all those spells belong to the transmutation school. That's basically stuff that changes forms, and it also includes turning yourself into something else. So theoretically, the ability you get is you get enhancement bonuses to your physical ability scores, basically chosen when you prepare your spells. You can be stronger for the day, nimbler for the day, or have more hit points for the day. And their base thing is they can throw telekinetic fists within 30 feet. So that's basically all the classes. So let's go pick our first one. I'm thinking this guy is going to be the master of the bow, so I'm going to take my first class as fighter. So fighter 1. So let's go through the fighter stuff. So a first level fighter, has a base attack bonus of +1 because a fighter, and at first level you take maximum hit points. So I have 10 hit points here. 10 hit points. My base saves are 2 fortitude and 0 for everything else. So theoretically it's 0, 4, 2 is my saving throws. Saves against poison, saves against basically explosions, and saves against illusion or enchantment. Well, with the exception of this. Strength modifier is applied into your combat maneuver defenses, so it's +1. So my thing would be a 15 to resist combat maneuvers. Okay. And the first level ability for fighter is a bonus feat. So 1 fighter. But the bonus feats of fighters must be combat focused or combat feats. So theoretically, just mark it down if you're gonna pick them later. And you get 2 skill. Okay, so let's see. How many skill points do I get? I get 2 plus my intelligence, so that's 6 skill ranks. Okay, so that's basically a first level character. Let's multiclass. I'm going to multiclass into wizard and take my favorite class as that too. For now anyways. So we're going to multiclass into wizard. So effectively we're at level 2 now. So in multiclass you just put the class ranks and each class functions differently. So I'm going to go through the fighter class skills. So I'm going to got climb, craft, handle animal, intimidate, knowledge dungeoneering, knowledge engineering, profession, ride, survival, and swim. Okay. So now we're going to add wizard to this list, to the class list. So I have everything here. I'm just going to put the skill ranks later because we're going to put skill ranks and feats later on. So I'm just going to put fighter. So I'm just going to put the fighter proficiencies. I might have spelled that wrong. Yeah. So theoretically I can look that up later, but most people will know that those pretty much will count most armors and weapons. So let's go add the wizard stuff. So at first, when you multi-class, you basically add something to the classes. So theoretically you add the base attack bonus and everything else. So a wizard has 2 plus their intelligence modifier, so 6. 6 skill ranks. Wizard, and I'm going to give him a +1 hit point. But I have to roll a 6-sided dice. But for this, I'm just going to put the max, and I'm going to put the hit point into wizard. So I didn't get the hit point for the fighter, but I did get it for the wizard. Because it's favorite class wizard. If you understand that. So, there's your hit points. Let's do the same base attack bonus. Base deck bonus does not go up because of wizard. I have to wait until the second level wizard to increase it to 2. No, yeah, to 2. But my saves change. You add the wizard's 2 will save into the thing, so now the will save is a 2. You add the wizard's skill proficiencies into here, which is a praise, fly, all known skills. Fly doesn't allow you to fly, it just applies when you have the ability. Linguistics and spellcraft. Here we are. So that's the total of my class skills. And just so you know, you can put ranks into any skill you want, 1 per 1. You just get a bonus when you get the skill ranks. I'll go over that with skills, which is next episode. So let's go through the picks. So Arcane Bond. Okay, so the first thing I have to pick is Arcane Bond. I'm gonna pick a longbow. Let's do an archer base ranger. So it's gonna be a longbow. Our Arcane Bond is gonna be a longbow he has on him. Because a familiar might not be very handy. Or maybe it would be. You know what, let's go for a familiar. And I'm gonna give him the, instead of an Arcane Bond, that can be stolen. So let's go with a familiar and let's make it, a weasel. So a weasel grants its master a bonus to their dex to their reflex save. So we get an extra 2 on their reflex saves. So increases that by 2. The weasel will have its own stats and be applied, but for this we're gonna go through, we won't put a weasel stats. You can pick up a weasel stats from the bestiary and then apply the stuff from the familiar description based on your level. And it's your wizard level, not your... It's based on your class level. No, it's based on your wizard level. The class level is based on the wizard level. So be careful about that. But if you're going full wizard, it's not a bad idea. This is just a quick boon, so let's take your arcane skill. Since this guy is a fighter, he's going to be more of a war mage based on stuff, so I'm going to pick evocation. So theoretically, his spells per day, he has 3 cantrips. He can prepare 3 cantrips, but they're unlimited. So theoretically, he can cast 3 cantrips. He can prepare 3 cantrips a day, but he can cast them unlimitedly because he has a cantrip thing. And he also has the scribes. He also has the scribe scroll fate, which basically allows him to put his spells into written form, so we can basically have more spells in the day. So he has the cantrip ability. Let's go for restricted skulls. So let's see. I'm gonna go with necromancy and enchantment. He's not subtle and does not like the undead. Okay, I'll just put the cantrip ability right there. That means your 0th level spells are casted unlimitedly. Okay, so let's go through the evocation skill. Intense spells. So it's +1 to spell damage. And we're gonna take Force Missile. Oops, sorry. Which is how many times a day? 3 plus intelligence modifier, so 7 per day. ED4 damage. And this is an automatic strike, basically like the magic missile spell. So theoretically, it's going to be something that you can cast multiple times. So theoretically, we're going to have to buy a spell book. You're going to need a spell book, a spell component. We're going to need a spell book and a spell component pouch. The spell component pouch basically will hold most of your non-gold material components. Some DMs will require you to buy them specifically, but in most cases you can go with that if you're just making something up. So let's go with the spell books. Yeah, let's go through spell books right now. So you get all but your restricted spells at 0th level, all but so you get all but your necromancy enchantment spells. Oh yeah, and you get to prepare 1 spell plus 1 spell from evocation, and the spell DC is 10 plus the level plus your intelligence. So it's 14, 15 to resist your spells. And your bonus spells per day, you get bonus spells based on your intelligence score. So the higher it is, the more spells you get. So I'm guessing so it's a +4 bonus, which is a 1 additional bonus spell. So you can prepare 3 spells a day. 2 can be of any school, but 1 must be an invocation. So let's go pick his first level spells. No, we'll pick those later. So I'm just going to write down just how many he gets for this. So let's see. Because we'll pick those when we get into spells. So spells. Spellbook. Oh, here we are. All 0th level spells plus 3 first level spells your choice. So 3. Plus your intelligence, so 7 spells. So theoretically, you get 7 spells, and each wizard level you get to add 2 spells you can prepare to the spells book. So he has 7 spells here, and plus this. It's going to cost you money if you take wizard at 2nd level, because it's a thing, but because the fact is you're going to need the spells, so you can So you can prepare 3 cantrips, but you can cast them a limited number of times. So theoretically you're going to need to buy a spell book, but I'm pretty sure the leveling up will give you the cantrips and the 7th level spells. So I think that's about it for the for multiclassing and the class stuff. So I went over the classes, the rules of what levels they are, and how many classes. So the next episode we're going to talk about skills and assign these 12 skill ranks. So I'll see you next time. Bye.